Jacob Fatu returns and attacks Roman Reigns on SmackDown. Plus, a huge title match has been announced for AEW Dynamite in Cardiff. And WWE Hall of Famer Arthur passes away. It's all in the Cultaholic Wrestling News right now. Look out, lads. Jacob Fatu is back with his boot on and everything. Literally couldn't stand to be away.
Sorry, this is going to squeak. I've just realised I'm a little bit off. There we go. What?
He's back.
What?
He's back with his boot on. Like nothing happened. So last night at SmackDown, Solo Sikoa challenged Roman Reigns to come and take the Ula Fala from him. And Roman stepped up, beat up Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga, grabbed the Ula Fala, put the Ula
Finally put it on. Monster response from the crowd when it was around his waist. Roman kind of just sighs a deep sigh of like, everything's right. And then bam!
A wild Jacob Fatu appears. And he obliterates Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
It leads to a triple powerbomb a la The Shield on the outside of the ring.
Shield bomb. The thing that I just... It was Roman's awe at Jacob. Like, him being there in the boot. Jacob kind of moving very fluidly for a man in a boot. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. But Jacob there, he did like the corner hip attack. And it's just Roman looks like he's been completely knocked for six. His eyes are just like so wide, like he can't believe it. But finally, the evil that Roman Reigns brought to the company is being turned against him. He's been he's been forced to deal with a dose of his own medicine.
Because a few people online went, "Where's the people helping Roman Reigns?" Like, he's been
Where's the Usos
for years.
Why isn't Cody coming down? He deserves it. He's got to get a taste of his own medicine.
Oh, look, I'm reaping what I've sown.
Oh, no.
Jacob Fatu looked fantastic in that short burst there.
Beast.
It's the first sighting of him since SummerSlam. And he put Cody through a table, and we weren't sure where the line was in a reported
there was like a
injury.
gas station or a 7-Eleven photo with him that emerged pretty soon after the event where he's in the boot, and it was like, oh God, he's injured himself. Then there was a lot of speculation of like, is he injured? Are they just trying to keep him off TV for a little bit? Are they trying to put a bit of distance between him and everything else? Could it be like, there's all sorts of theories flying around. And again, the boot doesn't indicate a break. It could be a bad sprain. It could just be preventative. But he
could be fashionable.
He didn't seem to be at like 100% last night. But again, it's a part of his job to be able to pretend things. So you don't know.
that it is. So I presume he's now back in the mix.
Yeah.
For going forward. There was some reports that said he'd be back later this month. I guess later this month is last night. It's still later this month.
It's a bit later on than it was, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. And a few people speculated that maybe he'd been taken off TV because obviously they've got the show in Berlin coming up. But whether or not his previous criminal convictions would prevent him traveling.
They were able to get him into Canada with apparently like a proper, like high-powered immigration lawyer or something, where they were able to get around the visa situation. But of course, internationally, it can differ. There's a lot of kind of stringent rules on who can and can't come into the country depending on prior convictions. So it's one of those where potentially down the road, I think we're going to see more of Jacob Fatu internationally. But right now, WWE's probably maybe scrambling to try and work these situations out. If indeed there is a roadblock for him to go into Germany, I'm not quite sure on the visa situation in Germany. I know that here in the UK, it can get a bit hairy with things like prior drug convictions, prior like crime convictions for an array of things as well. It's why like there were points where Jeff Hardy wasn't able to come into the country, etc. But it's one of those where, I think we're going to see Jacob more internationally once they manage to, I guess, hash out some sort of deal.
I would imagine that might be the case. Meanwhile, AEW flavored news on the socials last night for All Elite Wrestling. It was announced that we're going to hear from Eddie Kingston tonight on Collision.
After he got his leg absolutely obliterated. He's been away for quite some time. He was obviously somebody everybody was looking forward to being potentially on the All-In card. And it's one of those where it happened and it was like, ACL, that's a long road to recovery, that.
Broken leg, torn meniscus, torn ACL, you sunk my battleship, he's done. But and they made it very clear that he is on Collision tonight. We don't know whether he's live in person or via satellite, or whether it's a
he's in Brian Pillman's house with a gun, just sitting there.
Don't let Steve Austin in. Whether it's a vignette of some sort, but they say he will address All In.
He's somebody that would get a monster response from the crowd, even if he's unable to compete. I don't know if you want to put him in a position where it's like he's guest hosting. It depends how mobile he is. You know, not a lot of people know what's going on with him, so I guess we're going to find out. But if there is the potential for him to travel and it's not going to affect his injuries as they're healing, or if he's a bit further along than hoped, and maybe he is able to get not fully physical, but a little more involved, then hell yeah, let's get Eddie Kingston.
They're keeping us guessing all the way to Wembley, our AEW.
It was all just one big swerve. For months.
What's Swerve Strickland? 25 foot on the horizon. It's a big swerve. Last night on Rampage, it was announced by Saraya. We had a little back and forth with Saraya and Toni Storm, which has led to a possible bump in the road for Toni Storm on the way to Wembley.
Yeah, she's obviously upset she's not on the All-In card for next Sunday, being one of the most prominent British wrestling talents in the world right now. Obviously she beat she won the title last year from Toni Storm, so that brought Storm out. There was a bit of back and forth, but Storm challenged Saraya to face her for the AEW Women's World title next week on AEW Dynamite in Cardiff, Wales, and she declared that if Saraya beats her, then she can take her place at All In and defend the title against Mariah May. I feel like there's going to be something screwy goes on here, because it is odd that Saraya's not on the card. It feels like a bit of an oversight. That she wouldn't be on the card unless there are plans there for something. But I just don't see her winning this match because, I mean, we've been building to Toni Mariah for a very long time now, and it's what people are kind of really excited for.
Gonna be honest, I know that Saraya is home country and all that. I think shoehorning her in to that match would be a mistake. Yeah,
making it like a triple threat or something. I don't know. You could maybe make her a special guest ref, but then she's going to be impartial. People want a bit of a fair fight here, don't they?
I think you need to. I think there's this thing where you got to get everybody on the card for All In. But I think if there's reason for someone to be on the card, then put them on the card. You know, Jeff Jarrett and Hangman Page should be on the card.
Well, they're cowboys. They're two cowboys. It makes sense. Just put them together.
Put them together, Tony, you coward!
It's two cowboys.
But yeah, so that I'm fine with.
Neither of them have been a horseman. Both have sat on horses before.
Well, one has been a horseman.
He wasn't. He was the fifth horseman, and there's only four.
We have argued about this on the Cultaholic Classic Nitro review. I will turn this car around.
I'm right. You turn it around. Turn it around. We're already in the north. We're going to be turning around and going down to London anyway. We may as well get down there a bit early.
That's fair. I don't see. While there might be some shenanigans, I don't see Storm losing the title.
No, it'd be a massive shock upset, and it would derail one of the most prominent storylines heading into All In.
It would indeed, but it's certainly an interesting little development on the way. That'll be at Dynamite in Cardiff. Now, the news broke last night. Some really sad news from the wrestling world. WWE Hall of Famer, one half of the Wild Samoans, Arthur Anoa'i, passed away yesterday at the age of 81. The news was broke by Samu Anoa'i, his son, who said on Facebook, "It's the deepest regret that we announced the passing of my father, Arthur Anoa'i Sr., a peaceful transition, and he was surrounded by loved ones."
He was born in Western Samoa on November 21st, 1942, moved to San Francisco with his family as a teenager, and joined the United States Marine Corps at 17 years old. After finishing his service, he began wrestling training under High Chief Peter Maivia and Rocky Johnson, and then his in-ring career began in the early 70s, forming the Wild Samoans alongside his brother Sika.
And they absolutely tore a path through wrestling, Stampede Wrestling, the NWA territories, eventually landing in the World Wrestling Federation, where they became tag team champions pretty much everywhere they went. The Wild Samoans would go back and forth with the WWF. We would see Sika go on a solo career for a little bit.
He formed like a team with Kamala, did all sorts of stuff as well.
Yeah, that was it. Meanwhile, Arthur would retire and manage the Head Shrinkers, his son Samu and Fatu in WWF. And he would then help, along with Sika, build the Stars of Tomorrow with the Wild Samoan Wrestling Academy.
Which is one of the highest regarded wrestling schools in the world. Obviously, it's not just their in-ring career, but it's the amount of people they've brought to the ring. They've trained, an array of people like through the 90s, like some of the biggest stars that have passed through the Wild Samoan Academy.
Not only did they look to do stuff in the wrestling world, but they wanted to make the world a better place as well. The USO Foundation was set up by Arthur and his wife, designed to get kids off the streets and get them out of crime and drugs and put something new into them. And part of that was a scholarship to the Wrestling Academy. So in doing that, they've helped countless lives away away from wrestling. And both Arthur and Sika were awarded for their services to the wrestling world by being inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2007.
He was still making fleeting appearances in and around the ring. He came out of retirement to compete for his promotion, World Extreme Wrestling, which is kind of attached to the Wild Samoans Academy. And he was even part of an iconic moment where Roman Reigns was acknowledged by both he and Sika as the tribal chief, like fairly recently.
That's it. Tributes online to Arthur continue to pour in. But in the space of just a couple of weeks, we've lost both the Wild Samoans.
It's incredibly sad, and it's got to be an unbelievably difficult time for the family. So just sending all of our best. And yeah, it's horrible news, isn't it?
If you want to see something from the Wild Samoans that will make you smile, obviously some of their matches are just wild and woolly. But there's a sketch from Tuesday Night Titans in which it's the Wild Samoans cooking.
Yeah.
And it is just an example of just the silliness of the time. Yeah. I think it's really good from both Arthur and Sika. Absolutely lean into it. And just generally, they were just really... They were so different at the time. They came across as so shocking.
They were the first kind of really shocking duo of that era, I think. And I mean, some of the stuff, even with Sika, there was a point when he was feuding with Jake the Snake, and Mr. Fuji was Sika's manager during a solo run. And there's a promo, it's one of my favorites of all time, with Mean Gene. And Mr. Fuji's got a little tub of mustard, and he's like stirring a spoon in the mustard. And Sika walks on with this like 8-foot-long baguette. They just suggested they're going to eat Damien, and it's brilliant. It's so good.
There's so much of that out there. So, but obviously, away from the ring, they did some amazing work as well for people around them. And we here at Cultaholic extend our condolences and our best wishes to the friends and the family of the late great Wild Samoan Arthur Anoa'i. And for the latest wrestling news at any time, you can check out cultaholic.com. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.